Here we go. All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Help Our Kelp. So my name is Ella, and I work for the Sussex Wildlife Trust. And today I'm going to talk to you about kelp and why it's so important for the health of our oceans. So this session is going to take a little bit of a format of a quiz. We're not going to use the polling function because it's just a little bit too slow for what we need. So just kind of keep track of your answers as we go and kind of see how much you learn along the way. So first question is, what is kelp? Might seem like a simple question, but is it A, a plant, B, an animal, or C, is it algae? So just have a little think about that. So kelp is actually a type of algae. So kelp is a seaweed, and all seaweed is algae. And algae are not plants, but they are simple plant-like organisms. They don't have a complex root, stem, or reproductive system like plants do. So kelp, along with many other seaweeds, is a kind of brown algae, and kelp are large, fast-growing brown algae which form dense 3D habitats called kelp forests, making them very complex ecosystems. So question 2, where does kelp grow? In colder water or warmer water? So kelp grows in colder water. As you can see from this map here, all the lines are where different kelp species grow all around the world. And you can see in the middle here, in the warm tropical waters, there isn't any kelp growing. And just a map here of the UK, where all the green dots are, is where kelp grows. So you can see pretty much everywhere around the UK, we do get kelp. So next question, how many species of kelp are there in the UK? So just to give you a bit of a clue, we find 14 species in Europe. So in the UK, do we get A, 14, B, 1, C, 7, or D, 10 different species? So we get 7 species of kelp in the UK. Now then, how does kelp get its energy? Is it through photosynthesis, nutrients from the seabed, or both? Now have a think back to that very first question I asked, where I asked you what kelp was. So kelp uses photosynthesis, which all plants and algae do. So they use the sun's light to create sugars and uses this for energy. However, unlike plants, kelp do not have root systems, so they can't take nutrients up from the seabed. So they get all their energy from photosynthesis. So instead of roots, kelp has a holdfast, which you can see in this diagram, and they like to grow on hard, rocky surfaces. Instead of a stem, kelp has a stipe, and instead of leaves, they have blades, and a whole one of these is a frond. And all the different fronds together create the kelp forest. So why are kelp forests important for our oceans? Do they give a home to marine animals, act as nurseries for juvenile fish, slow down waves protecting the coast, provide food for lots of animals, or all of the above? So if you thought that they give a home to lots of marine animals, you are absolutely right. Kelp forests are amazing, complex 3D habitats with loads of space for lots of different species to make a home in the forests. They're incredibly biodiverse environments. So we get lots and lots of different creatures, like this is a common lobster, loads of different species of crabs. These amazing looking things are blue-rayed limpets, and they actually graze on the kelp blades. We get lots of different animals living on the seabed at the bottom of the forest. We've got sea stars there, we've got sponges, we've got different types of algae. It's just full, absolutely full of life. We also get sharks in kelp forests. So this is a small spotted cat shark, and they actually like to lay their egg cases, which you might have heard of before. They're called mermaid's purses. They like to lay them in the kelp forest, because it's a lovely protected space for them to do that. Kelp forests do also act as nurseries for juvenile fish. So in this picture, you can see lots of these little juvenile fish, and it's a really great environment for these fish to grow up in, because it's so much easier for them to hide from predators here than in the open ocean. They will then grow into big adult fish, which will spawn and produce lots of new baby fish. So fish like this cod is a commercially important fish, and kelp forests help maintain healthy populations of these and other important fish species. Also creates a nice, healthy ecosystems for the whole of the surrounding ocean. So yeah, kelp forests do indeed slow down waves, reducing their energy, which helps protect the coast. So they act as natural sea defences, and they can reduce the energy of waves by up to 70%, which protects our coastline from erosion and protects land and property. Kelp forests also provide food for many different animals. So lots of different invertebrates graze on the kelp itself and other algae. So here we've got sea urchins, sea stars, lots of different algae growing in the understory, which is what we call this area at the bottom of the kelp forests. Here we've got some kelp holdfasts. And these are in themselves an amazing complex 3D structure where tiny plants and animals live and grow, feeding on other plants and animals and becoming a food source for many other things. So it's a really complex environment, as I've said before. And kelp forests also support many of the species that gulls, like this young herring gull here, likes to feed on. Kelp forests also can capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So algae, like kelp, do this through photosynthesis. They take energy from light and use it to make glucose or energy. During this process, they absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and release the oxygen into the atmosphere. So blue carbon is the carbon stored in coastal and marine ecosystems. Some coastal ecosystems can store more carbon than forests on land do, and are now being recognised for their role in reducing climate change. Some coastal ecosystems can, more research is being done on how much carbon kelp forests can store and for how long. So, moving on to the Help Our Kelp campaign. So at Sussex Wildlife Trust, we have this project. There used to be large kelp forests along the West Sussex coastline, but this habitat has disappeared over time. And with this project, we want to bring it back. Since the 1980s, kelp has reduced in Sussex by about 95%, and now there's only tiny bits left, as you can see here. So huge storms in 1987 ripped out a lot of the kelp, but it's not grown back, and it's thought that the fishing method trawling has stopped the kelp from being able to grow back. So we are hoping to get trawling excluded from this area of the Sussex coastline. The law is currently with Parliament, but once it becomes signed and official, we hope that that breathing space of not letting trawling in will help the kelp grow back. And trawling is a fishing method where you drag huge heavy nets over the bottom of the sea floor to catch fish. So now I'm just going to show a video, hopefully.
Off our coast, there are magical underwater forests. A world of giant seaweed known as kelp. These underwater forests are among the most productive places on Earth, supporting a huge range of marine life. The forests are vital nursery grounds, giving sanctuary to the young of many commercial fish as they feed and hide among its fronds. And if you're lucky, you might glimpse a common cuttlefish, or the exceedingly rare short-snouted seahorse. In fact, these forests are so special that they're one of the most biodiverse environments on the planet. Home to thousands of species, from spider crabs searching for food on the forest floor, to lobsters hiding beneath the canopy. Every part of this remarkable forest is used by the creatures here. The fronds are home to tiny animals like these sea furs, filtering plankton from the water, and a place to find food for grazers like this top shell. Like coral reefs, the forests create an oasis of life wherever it grows. It's the perfect place to lay eggs. This mermaid's purse has a baby cat shark growing inside. And this is a squid nursery. Each finger-like capsule has more than 100 young squid inside. We're discovering these underwater forests are vital, not just for sea life, but in climate change. Reaching up towards the sun, the kelp fronds lock up vast amounts of carbon as they grow. Ian Hendy is an expert on kelp forests.
Globally, kelp forests will draw down more than 600 million tonnes of carbon. That's roughly twice the amount of carbon that the UK emits per year. What that's doing is reducing climate change. They stabilise the sediments. They can actually mitigate or reduce wave energy by up to 70%. And as a consequence of that carbon being drawn into the kelp will pump out lots of oxygen. So it oxygenates the water and creates a whole biodiversity for lots of wildlife to survive.
Once, these magnificent forests extended all along the Sussex coast, from Chelsea to Brighton. Today, only pockets of this life-generating kelp remain. Casualties of changing fishing practices, which have damaged the kelp's habitat. And other factors, like dumping sediment close to shore, which block the kelp's light, limiting its ability to grow. Now, an exciting plan to regenerate the Sussex kelp forests, led by the Sussex Inshore Fisheries and Conservation Authority, is getting started.
The kelp forests along the Sussex coast, and particularly the West Sussex coast, used to be very extensive and very dense. And that's changed in the late 1980s, early 1990s, to the point where today there is almost nothing left. And it's taken place out of sight. And that makes me feel sad. What we're trying to do is bring that back. There's a huge reduction in the presence of fish in this area, and we think some of that can be attributed to the loss of this important habitat. We see it with cuttlefish, we see it with lobsters, and over the last few years we can see a reduction in black sea bream catch as well. If we want to see the kelp come back, which is what we want, then we're going to have to give it a chance. So our plan is to push trawling away from the coast out to 4 kilometres where the kelp forest used to be. We really need these nearshore habitats to be thriving so that the fish can thrive. And we think this will give the kelp forest a chance to regenerate, to regrow, to restore it.
If we are successful with this restoration project in Sussex, the amount of marine wildlife that's going to generate again will be just fantastic. We need these kelp forests. We need them to purify the water. We need them to have the nursery function back, and we need them to reduce localised areas of climate change as well.
We can't do this without you. Visit sussexwildlifetrust.org.uk/Help Our Kelp to make a difference.
I hope you enjoyed that film. We were very lucky to get David Attenborough to narrate it for us. Help Our Kelp partnership is a project between Sussex Wildlife Trust, Marine Conservation Society, Blue Marine Foundation, and Big Wave Productions, who made that amazing film. So our vision statement for this climate summit is to have a wilder world with restored and thriving marine habitats. An action that you guys can take. Earlier this year, after months of work, an expert panel wrote a report for the government recommending that the UK introduce highly protected marine areas. So these areas would offer the highest possible protections for the marine environment, giving nature the best chance of recovery. By removing all pressures, including fishing, construction, and dredging, our shallow seas can become healthier and full of life once again. So to help get these areas implemented, you can write to DEFRA in support of them, and the link to that is, I hope, is in the event description. I'm just trying to change my slide. There we go. So you can pledge to encourage your friends as well to write to DEFRA and to spread the word about how amazing kelp is. And our call for world leaders this climate summit is to protect at least 30% of the sea through marine protected areas, which will lead to more climate resilient ecosystems. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed that and learned something. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. So thank you very much. I don't think we've got time for questions. I think I'm just in time to finish. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Bye.